Good morning, gang. Time for some thoughts about success in life and making a difference and being the person you're capable of being. Last video was about the myth of the grown-up, and I promised to start to talk about this whole dynamic of humility and what that does. So, long before I entered the field of intentional innovation and creative problem solving, I was engaged primarily in working in empowerment, working with adults and youth in retreats, ran a drug abuse treatment program, that kind of stuff. And I learned some things in that context that I think are useful here. One of the things that I've understood from studying others and working to improve myself is that we do a whole lot better when we start from a basis of humility. Now, to say I'm always humble, come on, but I'm a growing up, and so, I'm constantly trying to see if my own arrogance is getting in the way of my development and growth. And so, humility, let's think about that for a minute. And I'm not talking about low self-esteem. I'm not talking about the whole dynamic of, not feeling good about yourself. I'm just, not getting arrogant. What's the opposite of humility? Arrogance, right? And how successful can we be in life if we're loaded with arrogance? Not so much. Now, certainly we know arrogant, successful people, but I've worked with some of them in therapeutic sessions, these arrogant people. And I'll tell you, they're not really happy. They're not doing all that they can, because here's what happens when we are arrogant. When we are arrogant, our curiosity tanks. We're not. We have the answers, right? We know. And we're not learning and growing when we're arrogant because we are not curious. And human minds that are learning new things, that are picking up new useful thoughts, putting them into their mind, those human minds will make novel connections to solve the problems that they have a care about. And so we start with this basic of humility, but in some ways, you might want to think for yourself about being vigilant for where arrogance is showing up in your life. If you are choosing to be a growing up, most of the time as best you can, then the next step is to start to be vigilant for any place where arrogance is showing up. In other words, crafting or curating humility in your own life. Now, here's what's really interesting about this for me relative to the work I do in the innovation space is organizations, leaders, individuals in organizations that have a degree of humility have more curiosity. And when they have more curiosity, they are better at solving the problems that come along, whether they are a large Fortune 500 company, whether they are a small to medium enterprise, whether they are an individual leader, or whether they are just a mom and dad trying to do a better job of being a mom and dad. So let's start to look for where we might be arrogant and do our very best to turn that around, knowing that you'll never do it all the time because you're a growing up and can't be all grown up. This is Bob, hoping that this is useful. I'll pick up on the rest of these values, there's 6 of them, when I do the next video.